This podcast is supported by patrons. You can find a full list of them in the description of this episode. Hello, listeners and viewers of Good Morning BSS World podcast. This is Wiktor Doctor talking to you from Poland, and today I am connecting with our good African friend Rod Jones. Hi, Rod, how are you?
Hi, Victor, and thank you so much for once again having me on your show. It's a great pleasure and a privilege to be with you.
It's so nice to see you. And of course, when you are on the show, it means we are focusing on Africa and on this, what is happening in general in outsourcing industry on this continent. Last time we were talking more or less a month ago. Any significant changes since that talk?
I think there's a lot of activity happening across Africa, it seems like, and we were hoping to catalyze it, that Africa is now on the map as a BPO GBS location. So there's a tremendous amount of interest, a lot of consultants and analysts and brokers and agents traveling into Africa. And it's certainly starting to stimulate a lot of not only interest, but real job creation and impact sourcings and social change. So we did the official launch of the Africa Federation on the 5th of February. And we had nearly 400 people registered on the webinar. So it was very exciting. They were coming in from all over the world, operators.
I was there as well. I was also.
You were there. Yes, indeed you were. And in fact, if anybody's interested, we have an edited version of that recording available online, along with copies of all the research documentation that was presented by Mark Angus of Genesis Analytics. So it's all available. I'll send you the link, and you're happy to share that with you. So it catalyzed a lot of interest from, as I said, all over the world, and very exciting. A number of the, let's call it the social investment agencies, bodies, have picked up their ears, and we're in discussions now with some major funders. So we've already made some serious inroads into that. But nonetheless, the sort of activities that are happening there is Ghana, for example, is now a member of the Federation, the BPO Association. They have a Invest for Jobs partnership with focusing a lot on women in tech and women in BPO. So a lot of activities happening there. Uganda's launched a incentive program for BPO and GBS. So government has really picked up and taken notice of what's happening. And I think that's one of the exciting things. We're starting to see government agencies, investment agencies, and at the higher echelons of the governments of the countries. We have 9 countries at the moment subscribed to Federation, and we have 6 more that we're in discussions with. So I'll come on to those shortly. But so I'm just looking at some of the activities happening. We're a day early for South Africa under BPESA. Tomorrow is the launching of the new value proposition, and a lot of new and very exciting reasons to locate contact centers and BPO operations in South Africa. So we'll share that with you, perhaps the details on that. Nigeria has certainly come on the map fairly in the last 6 months, I would think. So the government-sponsored body, Outsourced Nigeria Initiative, headed by an amazing lady, Amal Hussein, has been very busy with a couple of trade missions into Europe, and that has stimulated, we don't have numbers on it yet, but a number of mid-scale BPO GBS operations are starting to really pop up in Nigeria. So lots of stuff happening in there. Uganda, our good friends in Uganda, they're in the process of formalizing the association there, and they will soon become a member of the Federation. But Uganda will host the Middle East and Africa Digital Transformation Summit, 25th to 27th of June. That's quite an achievement, and moving it into Africa. Then in Ethiopia, not to be sneezed at, but there's the Future Tech International Technology and Expo in Addis, 11th to the 13th of April. As you know, Ethiopia is really starting to make a name for itself. CCI is established there, and they're really starting to emerge as a key player in the East African region. So within our federation, we have the North Africa region, which is Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco. East Africa, Kenya, um, Ethiopia, and Uganda. And very soon, watch this space, Tanzania will join the East Africa. Over on the west coast, we have Ghana and Nigeria are the key players now, but also up and coming business. GBS business starting to grow in Sierra Leone. So watch that space as well. Quite exciting. I've been watching a mutual friend of ours, Elvis Malia, traveling all over Africa in these last 2 weeks, running his AI workshops in Ghana, and more recently this last week in Rwanda, funded by the GIZ. So it's been fascinating to watch the real digital skills development and skills transfer happening there. A little bit closer to home for me, Zimbabwe, and very close to my heart. We've had in Zimbabwe, we've had the CXAZ, the Customer Experience Association, for the last 15 years in Zimbabwe, focusing on contact center industry. And then fairly recently, in the last month or so, I've assisted and facilitated the formation of the new BPO Association of Zimbabwe. And that's all happening. And the newly formed association was announced last week that Tondolai Nyaku, country director of ZimWorks, is going in as chairman of the new body there. Namibia, a lot of activity there. There are 6 or 8 BPO operators in Namibia. It's a tiny country in terms of population. It's coming up to nearly only 3 million people. But when you look at it on the map, it's as big as Canada, as big as many countries in Europe put together. So small population, good language skills, particularly in German. So we have a steering committee formed in Namibia, a lot of enthusiasm there. There is a Zoom meeting for any interested parties in Namibia. It's happening on the 8th of April. We're coordinating it through the Federation. So any interested parties, welcome to contact me and to join the Zoom. Similarly, assisting the industry in Mauritius that has 3 industry bodies sort of overlapping. There's ICT, there's customer service, and there's a kind of a outsourcing association. But the government agency for inward investment has really understood now and taken to heart the model of the federation. So we're assisting with getting that one up and running. So those are the highlights of what's happening in Africa at the moment. I said in South Africa, we're constantly having new business entities setting up and operating. So we're still on track. South Africa as an industry running just short of 200,000 agents in BPO and consistently in the 15 to 20% annualized growth. And it continues to happen. So we're very excited about that. The other end of the continent, Egypt, Rolana Rashwan, we speak to on a regular basis. She's on the steerco of the Federation representing the northern region. And they're having a lot of activity, a lot of growth happening in there as well. And then last but not least, this is very close to my heart. It was announced last week that CCI, who, as you know, has moved originally from a site in South Africa, then into Kenya, then into Ethiopia, then into Egypt and Ghana, and is now launching a major BPO operation in Botswana in partnership with the Botswana government. Why that is very close to my heart, Wiktor, is that almost 20 years ago, I was approached by the Botswana government to do a feasibility study for BPO in Botswana. We did a thorough investigation, produced a country study, and made recommendations. But there were some problems with telecommunications connectivity that didn't really make it viable at the time. But now, like so many things in Africa, Africa's time has come. Botswana's time has come. So, as I said, it's very close to us here in Johannesburg. It's about a 4 hour drive. So it's almost neighborhood for us. So watch this space as Botswana comes online as I think very soon a major contender in the English language, both voice and digital skills. So very excited about that one. So that's the story of Africa for this month. Victor, any questions you might have?
Oh yeah, definitely. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I did some kind of a notes in here once you were updating me and our listeners and viewers about this, what has happened within the last month. It looks like that North Africa, East Africa, and South Africa are quite busy when it comes to all of those activities. The less active is the western part of Africa.
Well, there's a lot of activity happening in Nigeria, um, driven by the Outsource to Nigeria initiative. A lot of solid incentives. There's a lot of government support. So I think that will come online with scale very soon. So let's watch that space.
Oh,
Um,
definitely, especially that you have mentioned that from Nigeria, there were the trade missions to Europe.
yes,
Do you
yes,
know
indeed.
which part of Europe was under the interest of Nigerian BPO industry? Was it like Germany, UK, as are the obvious markets? Because usually this is what the markets in Europe are targeted, or maybe some others.
Subject to confirmation, the reports that I read were the trade mission specifically to Germany, to bring work into Nigeria from Germany. But I can get more information on that for our next update, definitely.
Okay, and if Germany, then probably this is somehow connected with the activities of GIZ.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, GRZ is very active right across Africa at the moment. There's a lot of support in Rwanda. Said Elvis is doing some amazing work there with all under the auspices of GIZ.
Yeah, it looks like
Mm.
this that this part of the German government via this initiative GIZ is really putting Africa in the main attention when it comes to building the business relations between Germany and various African countries, various African BPO projects. And once you mentioned this, what Elvis Milia is doing, it looks like he is moving into AI education more and more.
Very much so. And just reading the reports and his postings on LinkedIn over this last 2 weeks during his travels, it's really exciting to see the work that he's doing with AI in a practical sense, as opposed to being academic about it. In fact, I have Elvis and a panel of AI experts on a webinar on the 1st of April. And we'll be talking about the AI and ethics in the context of customer experience, contact centers, and BPO. So we have 5 panelists in there, including Elvis Malia. So it's going to be a very interesting debate and panel discussion. But I think it's one of the big issues is how will AI impact contact centers, CX, BPO, but specifically in Africa, where AI using some of the new technologies of translation tools and voice to text. This to me is one of the most exciting things that in my 50 years in call centers, this is the time that I'm really excited about because we dreamed about these things 20, 30 years ago, and they're coming to fruition. And I think for Africa, it provides an opportunity to leapfrog an industry straight into the top end of leading edge technology. And through that, thing that we're all passionate about, which is meaningful job creation, impact sourcing, and societal change.
Yeah, this ethics which you mentioned, this is a very, very important subject. Yeah, so just not to lose this humanity in this old artificial world which we are now
Yeah.
inside of. Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating. I said the panel discussion that we have on the 1st of April, to get the different views of it, not only from local experts down here, but also with expertise from Elvis, who's
Yeah.
Elvis Malia, who is working right in the heart of the developing industries in West and Central Africa. And of course, he's been very interested, very involved with East Africa in Kenya as well.
You also mentioned during your update about Mauritius that there are those associations, IT, CX, and one other. I can tell you that in Europe this is a normal model. So usually there are associations which are focused very much on the IT area, and usually those are either clusters or associations. But basically this is one type, and the others are of various types of the BPO or GBS activities. So it looks like the similar model.
Yeah, and I think what we're trying to achieve with the federation is that membership of the federation is to country bodies, now recognized country bodies. So in some instances, like Mauritius, it will evolve. We'll have to see which way it goes, but more than likely, it's the government investment agency would be the member of the federation and represent the interests of its affiliates and associates. So we're finding that in a couple of the other territories as well. Um, but nonetheless, we're just delighted that hopefully by the time end of the year comes around, we will have close to 20 African countries part of the federation.
And there are
And
16 now, yeah?
we've got 9 who have signed and committed, and then we have 6, 7 that we are going through the process of screening, assisting, facilitating, mentoring, and to bring them aboard. Because in some regions we found there's interest, but there's no body. There's no body to represent the operators. So it's a matter of bringing those players together and getting a consensus. I said Zimbabwe happened very quickly, largely because I travel there fairly frequently and I know many of the people, and we were able to pull together a representative association of 8 different BPO operators.
If I recall one of our previous talks, there was a target of having 1 million people employed in African GBS industry till 2030. Was it like that? Yeah, it was, I think, like that. Is it still the target?
It's still the target, but the more we get involved with this federation and the support that we're getting, I think we're going to have to revise our targets because I predict that it's going to be a slow start, but then as the message gets out and as we as a continent start delivering high quality, high value, um, we've been talking to some of the really big operators. One in particular, no names, no pectoral on it, is considering moving between 50 and 100,000 jobs out of other locations into Africa. Um, Now, if some of those major tier one operators, if they when they start seeing the value and the quality, I suspect we may reach that target a lot sooner than anticipated.
Okay, so it will be bigger. I can tell you that I was recently visiting Philippines, and currently the status of the industry is that they have 1.8 million people employed in the GBSs and various activities which are the BPO or IT and so on. And their target is for the coming 3 years to reach 2 million people employed.
Yeah, quite possibly. But as we said offline earlier, a lot will depend on the geopolitical uh,
Of course.
traffic happening, the shifting sands. But
Absolutely, yes. And of course, this industry worldwide is very much depending on the geopolitics, especially when it comes to the North American approach to near and offshoring policies and strategies. So we will see. We will see. It might have the same impact on Asia, Europe, as well as the Africa. Yeah. So we will see.
Well, let's watch the space carefully. But I, I, I think by the time we chat again in the not too distant future, we'll start seeing some real tangible numbers starting to come into Africa. And I hope to be able to report on that.
Oh, thank you very much. And definitely, those are the questions which I will raise during our talks to find out more. How does it look like? And the last final question is the place for this event organized by the Federation already identified?
The For the launch conference, not
Yes.
yet. What we have put out to the member bodies is an expression of interest. Would almost say a, an RFI, RFP for information that the board will decide then based on that information where the launch function will happen. We've probably anticipating September, October. It could even be into November, having a much smaller event. It's not the major one that we spoke about last time, where we'll just bring the steerco together into a location along with some of the patrons and some of the funders, just to refine strategies. Then the major launch event, which in my mind's eye, that's a 500 person major conference that would happen early next year.
So I
So
will.
we can't say where it's going to be yet. It will depend on, as I said, as our role as patrons of the federation, we mentor, guide, steerco, who in turn will soon transform into a board, and the decisions will be made there.
So I will be patiently, or rather impatiently, waiting for this announcement, and we will see how it goes.
Well, if nothing else, Victor, we would certainly like to invite you to be part of the festivities when it does happen.
You can count on me. Rod, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have this update on a monthly basis. So we will meet soon to find out what will happen within the next coming weeks. Thank you very much for today.
Wonderful, and thank you for the privilege of being on your show.